In today's terms, whatever the Bryan Adams equivalent of a Swiftie is, that was me. Hello everyone, and you are very welcome back to another video. My name is Amy, I'm a musician, I play guitar, and I sing, and I make videos that consist mostly of cover songs, guitar content, vlogs, and I also just really enjoy talking about music and music-related things. So today's video is gonna be a little story time that is honestly a little bit cringy and a little bit embarrassing for me to tell. This has crossed my mind to make a video about at some point. It has been sitting on a list of unused video ideas in my notes, but it was recently brought up in the chat of one of my live streams by my lovely dad. Thank you, Dad. He mentioned a key part of this story, and naturally, other people watching were curious and wanted to know more. A few people watching wanted to know the full story, and I promised I would tell it in a video because I feel like this story deserves its own video instead of, being buried in a live stream. Even though it's an embarrassing one for me, it is kind of part of my journey. And also it happens to be Christmas time by the time you're watching this, so a time for nostalgia and reflection, at least it is for me anyway. So what better way to be festive than to reminisce on the past and tell you a story from when I was younger. So I'm gonna tell it today finally, so stick around for the rest of this video if you would like to hear all about the time that I tried to get on stage with Bryan Adams when I was 14. Before we get started, it would mean the world to me if you could quickly hit the like button and consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already. Those are two things you can do that would really help me grow my channel, and it would mean the world to me. And I would really, really appreciate it. So if you know me in real life, you will know that I am a massive Bryan Adams fan. If you didn't know that, now you do. Bryan Adams is the reason we are here, the reason for this video, the reason for this channel, the reason I picked up the guitar in the first place. I became a fan during the summer of 2006. Just a few weeks shy of my 14th birthday, my parents took me and my siblings to see Bryan Adams live in Pearse Stadium in Galway. He was supported by the Hothouse Flowers and the Stunning. I remember that. I think this was my first real live concert experience. Other than the supporting bands, I don't really remember a lot of specifics about the day. All of my memories are in how I felt that day. This was the day that I fell in love with music, fell in love with live music, and fell in love with the music of Bryan Adams. I had already been playing piano at this point, but I think something clicked in my brain that day. Something about playing music didn't have to be just learning scales for an exam. It was like a switch flipped, like, oh, this kind of music I can play too. And that is the day that I decided to learn guitar. So after the concert, we drove home and I picked up the Tanglewood acoustic guitar that we had in the house and the chord book, and the rest is history. Bryan Adams became weirdly part of my personality back then. I was a teen obsessed, relentlessly teased by family members. With love, of course. I mean, if your own family can't take the piss out of you, then who can? Now I've grown up and I'm still obsessed with him and I still love him, but it's in much more of a healthy way now, like as in a love and respect as a musician type of a way. Not that I would ever expect Bryan Adams to see this video, but in the 0.0001% chance that he does, you don't have to be afraid of me, I promise. I'm not a crazy stalker. But anyone who knew me around this time, it was kind of just part of me, I suppose. Even this year, I was at my cousin's wedding back in April, and at one point during the night, the DJ played Summer of '69, and like so many of my family members turned around and pointed to me like, hey! And I was like, hey, Bryan! Now, I mean this with respect, but I was a fan of Bryan Adams in a time when it wasn't cool to be a fan of Bryan Adams. He is an artist that is associated mostly with the 80s and a little bit of the 90s too, but I think on a mainstream surface level, when people hear the name Bryan Adams, they think of a rock pop-ish guy who was really big in the 80s. It's probably because of the Reckless album that came out in 1984, since 3 of his most popular songs that people know him for came from that album. So Summer of '69, Heaven, and Run to You were all on the Reckless album. Everything I Do It For You came out in 91, so I think a lot of people just associate him with that time. But for anyone in the know, Bryan Adams has gone on to get so much more success and still does this full time. He's been extremely successful since then. He's released so much music since then. He's done music for movies. He's even gone on to co-write a Broadway musical. So much more work he's done. Success doesn't only exist in the spotlight. He is still a touring musician to this day, and he gigs a lot. I don't know if this is accurate to today, but I remember him saying in an interview at some point along the way where he said something like he still does like 200 gigs a year all over the world, and he's played in places that people don't often go to play. Like, he's probably played in close to every country on the planet. I respect that so much. Someone who's done it for such a long time, continues to do it, clearly loves it. I love that so much. But like I said, I was a fan when it wasn't cool to be a fan. This was in the mid-2000s. None of the kids that I was at school with were listening to Bryan Adams. It was kind of a little secret that I kept. If anyone had heard of him, they considered it their parents' music. My dad loves him. Oh, my mom loves that song. Some of them knew the song Heaven, but only from the DJ Sammy remix, which, as a fan, that just really hurts my soul. I swear, when I was at school, I felt like I was on another planet when it came to music sometimes. I just wasn't that interested in the music that was popular at the time. I did like some of it, depending on what it was, but I think at that stage, I was already seeing the world through the lens of a guitar player, and I just couldn't connect with a lot of the music that was around me. I had to go back to the 80s and prior to find music that I actually liked. In other words, music that teachers and parents liked. So that gives you absolutely 0 cool points there. But I did play guitar, so I think that made me kind of cool a little bit. So if you ever find yourself watching one of my videos or listening to music or something that's me, and it ever crosses your mind, gosh, Amy has such great taste in music, that's probably why. No, I'm just kidding. So for the months following the Pierce Stadium concert, I devoured every piece of Bryan Adams media that I could get my hands on. Anytime I walked past a HMV or any CD store, I would go straight to the pop rock section, flick through the CDs to see if they had an album that I hadn't got yet. I eventually acquired most of them. I don't think I ever actually owned everything, but the albums that I owned and loved and played repeatedly were Reckless, Waking Up the Neighbors, 18 Till I Die, On a Day Like Today, The Spirit soundtrack, Room Service, and 11. Also the live albums too, Live Live Live, MTV Unplugged, and the Bare Bones album. I know every square inch of those albums. That was how I spent my evenings and weekends, poring over that music, learning every chord, sitting handwriting out the lyrics. Even though I didn't own every single album, I still feel like I got what I needed at the time in terms of his best songs, because I also had a few compilation albums too. I had So Far So Good, The Best of Me, and Anthology, both the US and European releases. I still have all those CDs back in Ireland, and oh gosh, I listened to them so much. That was the music that accompanied me through puberty and everything I went through back then, and at times those albums were my crutch and my lifesaver. I really believe that his music has stood the test of time, and I think it still holds up today. Those records were just so fantastic. The songs are great, they're so well produced, and oh my god, can we talk about the guitar tone? It's pristine. Absolutely has stood the test of time, and even though I wasn't born when that music came out, it still holds so much nostalgia for me. And even now, like, I don't know every single song, but I know the hits, obviously, and a lot of the off the beaten path tracks as well. I love. In today's terms, whatever the Bryan Adams equivalent of a Swiftie is, That was me. And also, this was the mid-2000s, like we said, so I didn't go anywhere without my Discman. I was constantly buying batteries because I used it all day, every day. I remember I had this little round pink CD holder thing. It was pink, it had a clip at the top, and when it opened up, it was almost like an accordion. It had all these little sleeves where you could pop CDs in, and you could fit about 15 to 20 CDs in there. So I had my little Bryan Adams collection portable. And that was so easy for me to bring my music with me. So when we'd go on car rides or go on holidays, I wouldn't have to bring like 20 CD cases. Okay, so we're getting closer to the cringy part now. So because I was so consumed with Bryan Adams, my parents bought tickets again to see him the following year. This time, everything is alright, no way. She's gonna get away. This time it was gonna be just me and my dad. I think my siblings were over it at this stage. So in May 2007, Bryan Adams was gonna be playing at the Point Theatre in Dublin, now known as the Three Arena. And to say I was excited was an understatement. They had booked the tickets a couple months prior, so I started a countdown. I literally drew out a calendar and was crossing off the days as they passed. 67 days, 52 days to go. Now the idea that started the subsequent embarrassing part of the story. I don't know if he still does this. I don't think he does. But back in the day, Bryan Adams had a song called When You're Gone. You probably know it. It came out in '98 and Mel C from the Spice Girls sang on that track with him. So when he'd do shows and he'd play this song live, since it's a duet with a female voice, he used to pluck somebody out of the crowd to get up on stage and sing the song with him. And I remember at some point my dad telling a story about a guy who went to a Sting concert and had a little sign from the audience that said, "Pick me," and he held it up and Sting picked him and pulled him up on stage to do a song with him. You could probably guess where this is going. So I said, I'm gonna do that. So I did. I made a sign and I put a lot of effort into this sign. I went and bought this big, massive sheet of card. I don't know, was it A2 or A3 or something? Really, really, really big piece of sheet of, I don't know, was it paper or card? I don't remember. Put the letters, "Pick me," and then like colored them in black to make them really stand out. This was actually kind of cute. I also drew the Irish flag and the Canadian flag and I had them like crossing over like this above the letters "Pick me." So it was a very colorful sign. Actually, as I was planning this video, I was chatting to my mom and I said, do you by any chance know if we still have this sign? Because if I can find a picture of it at least, I want to put it in the video. And so I asked her, I said, do you think we still have it? And her response was, well, I can't imagine we would have thrown that out. At the time of filming this, I don't have a picture of it yet. I don't think they've found it, but if I get a picture of it before this video goes up, I will include it here so that you can see the sign. But I was really hoping and wishing that this sign would be enough to catch his attention so that I would be the one that he'd pull up on stage. And in my mind at the time, in my deluded 14-year-old fantasy, because I was playing guitar now, I wasn't gonna get up and just sing like any basic bitch would, but I'm gonna play too. And the song When You're Gone has a guitar solo in it. So I learnt it. And in my mind, not only was I going to sing, but I was going to play and I was going to surprise him with the guitar solo too. And it was gonna blow his mind. And in my mind, this was going to happen. Bear in mind, I'd only been playing guitar a few months at this point. It was still very new to me, even though I picked some things up quite quickly. But I worked on this solo really hard. I practiced it a lot. But looking back now, I think I can safely say that I would not have pulled this off. And I'm not saying this in a self-deprecating way. Even with all the practice, my soloing technique just wasn't there yet. I think I learned the solo from some random tab online, so who knows if it was even fully correct. I had no basic knowledge of the pentatonic scale, and I didn't even know how solos are even constructed. So in guitar player world, I was completely out of my depth. And even technique aside, it was one thing to play the song on my own in the garage with the CD player. Totally different ball game to play it on stage at the Point Theatre with Bryan Adams and Keith Scott standing right there. So with my sign made and my solo learnt, the day of the concert finally came around. My dad drives us to Dublin, and this is a random, really quick side note, but I always think of this when I remember this day. This was either the day or the day after that Madeleine McCann went missing, and it's not related to this story at all, but it's just, that was such a big story at the time and everyone was talking about it. And I remember us driving to Dublin and that was on the radio. That's all everybody was talking about. That was such a huge story, so it kind of just, it's part of my memory whenever I think back on this day, because when that story broke, it was absolutely everywhere. And yeah, it was literally like the 3rd or 4th of May 2007. That's when that happened. So anyway, we get to the concert and we have standing tickets. So it's very important to me that we get in there as quickly and as early as we can to get as close to the front as possible. I would not do that today. That just sounds so unbelievably stressful. And I have to say, fair play to my dad. He was right there with me. He was on board. He was committed to the moment. He was like, let's do it. Not once did he ever say in the lead up to this, girl, get your head out of the clouds. This isn't happening. He was right there with me. He was like, we're going to make it happen. So right when the segment starts, I'm going to get you up on my shoulders and you hold that sign as high as you can. He really wanted to try and make this happen for me and to do his best, which is so cute. The things that daddy will do for their daughter. And I knew the set list, so I was like, right, when he gets to Cuts Like a Knife, When You're Gone is after that. So we gotta wait for that song, and when it gets to Cuts Like a Knife, we'll be ready. We'll be ready. Also, you know those moments at a concert right before the person or the band comes on? I don't know if anybody else's brain thinks this way. There's just a moment I have like before they're on stage and I can't help but think they're going to be right there in just a few minutes. Like I just remember feeling that so intensely at that particular concert because I'd spent so much time devouring this music and poured myself over it and just had loved it so much. The person that had made it was going to be like right there in the flesh in front of me, and just imagining that moment being like, 15 minutes away was just so exciting to me. So even now I still kind of think like that if I'm at a show or something and I'm like, oh, they're gonna be like right there in just a few minutes, and that's so exciting. This person or this band that I love so much, and I've been consuming their music and kind of watched them from a distance, like record their albums, release their albums and tour the world, and now we're gonna be in the same room as them. Like I'm in the same room as them at this moment. That's just, I don't know. Just found it just very exciting. I don't know. So the time in the show comes. The lights go up and Bryan is scouting the crowd for who he's gonna pick. My dad gets me on his shoulders so quickly and he flings me straight up and I'm holding the sign as high as I can, and I just remember feeling very, very tall and very high up in that moment because I was suddenly above the sea of heads. And I'm looking right at Bryan. I'm looking right at him and he's looking right back at me. He's got his finger pointed, like ready to pick someone, and he's making eye contact with me and he's looking at my sign and he literally goes, I see someone with a sign. And I'm like, oh. And then he goes, you. For a split second, I thought I had him. I thought I had him. And it looked like he was about to, and then he just suddenly changed his mind. I was so sad and disappointed. I don't remember feeling any relief really. I was just disappointed. I feel like now I'd be relieved. But I was sad for a little while afterwards, but I got over it. However, now, today, I am so unbelievably glad that he didn't pick me. I don't know where this bravery came from that I thought I could pull this off, but I know myself, and I know the stage fright and the panic attacks that I dealt with for a decade after this. I would have froze up there, and it might not have been a great experience for me. I mean, who knows? I can't say for sure, and we'll never know. So as embarrassing as this story is for me to tell, let alone tell it on the internet, I feel like he saved me so much more embarrassment by not picking me. And I'm grateful to him for that. I was too young and I was not ready. And I'm sure the fact that I was so young was probably a big reason why he decided not to pick me. I mean, I was a young looking 14-year-old, like I was a 14-year-old that could probably pass for an 11-year-old. So I did look very young. And you know, he's running a show. He has a crowd to entertain. And a grown woman who was maybe a little bit more loose and would have got up on stage and had a good time. That would be way more fun for an audience to watch rather than a tiny 14-year-old having a meltdown, possibly. And so that's what happened. I made a sign. I had a plan. I convinced myself that everything in my head was going to happen and that this was even in the realm of possibility. That was my chance to impress my idol with my oh so amazing guitar skills and my love for his music. And I thought, he might even hire me, who knows? And it didn't happen. And now as a grown woman, I look back on that experience and I'm so glad it didn't happen the way I hoped it would. I'm just so glad. It's cringy, it's embarrassing for me, but it's part of my story. Going back down this memory again has actually been really nice because it's reminded me of my roots. Not that I really needed reminding, but especially for making videos, like it's just kind of, this is why I'm here and this is why I decided to start a channel and this is why I play music. It feels very much like where I come from, so it's just nice to kind of just be reminded of that again. And I really, really hope that Bryan Adams doesn't remember that moment because he looked right at me. And I really hope he's forgotten that. So to end off this video, I thought it would be really fun if I played the When You're Gone solo for you. I'm better equipped to play it today, after 18 years of guitar playing versus just a few months. Relearning this solo has been really nice and really fun, and also validating because I don't think I'd attempted to play it since, and this time I was able to just learn it by ear, so that's like, okay, I'm doing something right. I have learned a thing or two along the way since then. It's fun to go back down memory lane and relearn a song that meant so much to me when I was growing up. And to avoid getting a copyright claim on this video, I'm going to lay down the rhythm track myself first, and then I'll play the solo over it. Let's give it a whirl. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did watch it all the way through, I really do appreciate it. Leave a like if you did enjoy it, and again, subscribe if you haven't already. It would be a great way to support the growth of the channel. Also make sure you hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss when I post my cover songs, my guitar content, my vlogs, my live streams every week. Let me know if you enjoyed this style of storytime videos, because I got lots of stories. I've lived a bit of life at this point. I got some stories to tell, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to hear more of them. Also leave me a comment and let me know if you are a Bryan Adams fan too, because if you are, we are on the same level and I need to hear from you. What is your favorite song, or what's your favorite album? How long have you been a fan? Have you seen him live? Maybe we were at some of the same shows, because I've seen him multiple times live since. After all of this Bryan Adams talk, I think I need to go back down the rabbit hole and re-listen to the Bryan Adams catalogue, because it's been a while. There are also some links in the description if you would like to support me further. I have a Patreon, I have a YouTube membership community, and I have a merch store with lots of music and Irish inspired designs, so all down in the description. Please do check them out. If you do decide to become a Patreon supporter or a YouTube member, you will get access to a monthly private live stream that we do, your name in the credits of my videos as an extra thank you. You also get behind the scenes content and updates as I can give them to you. And beginning in 2025, I will be allowing all Patreon supporters and all YouTube members to vote on cover songs for upcoming videos. So if that sounds like a fun thing for you to do and you'd like to support me and you have the means, of course, I would appreciate that so much, and it's all linked below. Thank you so much again for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.